What is going on, people of the internet? Hyper Chaotic here with a KRR, and welcome back, or welcome if this is your first time visiting my channel. And boy, I have not done one of these in a long time. I've been meaning to get around to this for quite a while, but needless to say, my plate was full with serving after serving after serving. If that makes any sense. I pushed this way back way too much. Nonetheless, I'm finally going to get around to it now that I just seen the trailer for the Marvel Zombies series that's going to be coming out on Disney+. So I want to go ahead and get this over with so I can eventually do a video on the What If show and a specific episode on the What If Marvel Zombies episode. Now, for those of you who are new to me, welcome to an MCU Casuals Off the Dome retrospective of Phase 4. That is a better title than what I actually called it the first time around. I gotta go back and change the original titles. Anyways, yeah, I haven't done these in a while. I do have a specific playlist just for these videos, so if you do want to check out the previous videos, when you're done with this one, I will have a playlist linked somewhere on screen for those of you on the alternative platforms in the description down below. If I made a playlist on those platforms, I probably have to do that first. Anyways, as the title implies, I am just an MCU casual, not a hardcore MCU fan, let alone a hardcore Marvel fan. So I just enjoy this from time to time. I don't care to keep up with every single property, at least not anymore from this point on, because it got exhausting keeping up with everything and needing to do homework in order to just follow up with what's going on in the next following property. Which apparently I've been failing to do that because I only just now recently found out that there are tie-in comic books. Why the fuck was I not informed of this sooner? Why doesn't Disney promote that shit? Because I've been hearing people say a lot that, oh, if you don't know what happened in between the events of films and shows within the MCU, you gotta check out the comic books. Which had some people like me so confused. I thought that they were just taking inspiration for the comic books, that we didn't have to read the original comics in order to follow along with the films. Nobody told us they were fucking MCU tie-ins. Also, when I want to know what's going on in the film, I want it to happen within the film, or be explained within the film. Not in a separate property that I had no idea existed, because there's no promotional advertisement for it whatsoever other than, I don't know, people talking about it on fucking Twitter maybe? And I don't use Twitter. No, I'm not calling it X, by the way. I don't know if I'm eventually going to check those out. I might one day, but as of the moment, I really don't feel like doing homework just to catch up on what I missed with the MCU. That'd probably be a good what did I miss in the near future. If the MCU had any video games, that is exclusive for any properties related to games. And yes, people, I know there are Marvel video games, I just don't know of any that are tie-ins for the MCU. Well, actually, I think there are some for Phase 1, like there was an Iron Man film back in the day, I think an an Iron Man game, an Incredible Hulk game. But that's really about it. And if I ever do check those out, then I'm only going to probably check out the films that they're tying in with rather than the comics. I don't think they tie in with the comics at all. Anyways, with that out of the way, we're about to get straight into it, but let it be known, like I said, as the name implies, casual, and right off the dome, right off the top of my head, whatever I can remember. If I can't recall anything or a certain part or scene from the film, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. If I get any details wrong about a scene, character development, or the plot, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. But this is all just based off of memory. I did not rewatch any of these properties in order to talk about them. I don't know if y'all heard that playing in the fucking background. In all honesty, I just paused the recording when I heard that. I actually got a little spooked there. Not because the plane sounded like it came out of nowhere, but the sound of it sounded very fucking odd, like the jets were giving out or malfunctioning. I thought a fucking plane was just about to crash right in my neighborhood for a second. Holy shit, dude. Anyways, if you like to hear my thoughts on a specific property, I will have timestamps in the description down below. I'm going to go over the stuff I liked, what I didn't like, how I felt about that specific property overall as a general conclusion, I mean. Then, near the end, I will give a final conclusion of this phase in a nutshell. Or I mean, how I felt about it in a nutshell as a whole. I actually have a list right in front of me that will help me keep track of all the films I will be going over. Let it be known that the order this list is in the order of release date rather than chronological order or the order I actually viewed them in. Originally, I would have done that, but I don't actually remember what order I viewed them in. So we're just going to go through release date order. You know what? Let me separate this video into two separate sections of phase 4. One for the films, one for the TV shows. Once again, if you want to see a specific section just for the films or TV shows, timestamps down below. I think I'm going to start off with the films first because I'm going to have a lot to say about the shows. But once again, I'm still going to go within order of release dates. Starting off with Black Widow. Let's see, what can I say about this film? I think it was alright. You know, it was a decent meh. It had some pretty good action. The CGI was a bit of a lower budget than previous films, but it wasn't completely bad. The story, it left a lot to be desired. And like many other MCU fans, I was a little disappointed that we got this film after Black Widow died. Now granted, this film is technically a prequel, and I think it's supposed to take place between Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, I think. Whichever one it was, nonetheless, this film is technically a prequel, or really, more specifically, it is what is considered a midquel. Something that happens in the middle of, two other properties. I also wish we had some better connection and development with the chemistry between Black Widow and her family, or Natasha and her family. Nonetheless, what chemistry they did have was alright. I really feel like they could have done more with the Red Guardian other than just turning him into a fucking joke. Because when I heard they got the guy from Stranger Things to be playing him, I was hyped. Then when I saw this film, I was just like, man, you're not going to have him whoop some more ass with his own Red Guardian shield or some shit? Like, come on. Throughout the film, I thought they were going to try to connect as a family a bit more, and near the end, they would have fought the main bad guy as a family. I mean, she kind of did with her and her sister, and I think their father did help a bit, but I don't know, maybe I had higher hopes with my expectations than what was delivered to us. But I doubt I was the only one. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Now, I knew practically nothing of this character when I initially heard of him. I had to look up a lot of videos about him from the comic books, and I've never really dove into the comics too much because I grew up a broke boy. I was never able to afford comic books, and the nearest comic book shop was like 2 to 3 hours away from my house, not including the one that I used to have by my old high school, before it eventually closed down because they decided to sell to a school full of some broke ass kids. Hell, we didn't even have money for the fucking churros that some of the kids would sell for a fundraising program. And I think that shit was like $1.50 a churro. Some of us literally were too broke to even afford a fucking $1 churro. Anyways, that aside, when I initially heard about some of the people working on this film that apparently had worked on other films like The Raid, once again, I was initially hyped for this film. And when I saw some of the choreography from the trailer, I'm just like, oh shit, we're gonna get some kung fu ass whooping, which we got a little bit of. And the choreography was decent, but the character chemistry and development was lackluster. And once again, I feel like it left a lot to be desired. As far as the character of Shang-Chi, I don't remember much other than I think his father was the bad guy, trying to release a dragon, a mystical dragon, to do what now? I can't remember the rest of the plot. I really don't. And I feel like they didn't do the best job building up the dragon, which was supposed to be, I think, Fin Fang Foom, no? I'm honestly not even sure. I've only heard that name multiple times within the comics. A couple of times, I think, within some of the animations. Like the MAU, Marvel Animated Universe. But that's about it. Yeah, unfortunately for me, this film had a pretty forgettable plot. But for what it was lacking in its plot and character chemistry and development, it at least made up with a bit within the choreography department. Still a pretty fun action film. Would I actively seek it out to see it again? Probably not. If it just happened to come up on screen, like on television or on streaming during like an autoplay, I'll probably sit through it again. But that's only if it just happens to come on or somebody happens to put it on. I probably won't actively seek it out to view it again. Next up, The Eternals. Didn't see it. I heard it was very boring, and they try to cram a lot in that film. A lot of characters, a lot of plot, and oh yeah, that's apparently where we had that giant. Okay, these are the Eternals. What were the other ones? The Immortals? Not the Immortals. I forget what that giant creature that's supposed to pop out of the earth like it was an egg is supposed to be called. But they try to stop that from happening. And then from there, just for some reason, the rest of the world just doesn't question this giant creature sticking out of the earth until the Red Hulk film. What is it called? Captain America, Brave New World or something like that? I did see it. I don't even remember the name of it. Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, I know a lot of people out there like to say that this film was primarily Spider-Man fan service. In many ways it is. And for those reasons, I don't care. I very much enjoyed this film. And I very much enjoyed it as a final conclusion to the new MCU Spider-Man series. And to have the Spider-Mans from the previous Spider-Man films in it, just, oh my god, I fucking grew up with Tobey Maguire. And I, for one, actually did kind of enjoy the Amazing Spider-Man films with Andrew Garfield. There was a lot to be desired with its villains, but not a lot delivered. But when it comes to Andrew Garfield, what the fuck was that? When it comes to Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, I think he was actually good. I know a lot of people, though, said that he was a great Spider-Man, but not the best Peter Parker. And yes, we are supposed to kind of look them as two separate things, in a sense. Like, I think this is the same thing that people said about Tobey Maguire, but the other way around. He was a great Peter Parker, and more often than not, a great Spider-Man. But it's like Andrew Garfield was Andrew Garfield was like a slightly better Spider-Man, but he wasn't the best Peter Parker. Whereas Tobey Maguire was a better Peter Parker than what the fuck is wrong with me right now? Than Andrew Garfield. It is such a tongue twister bouncing back and forth between those names. I think I remember from a video I watched a while ago, there was also some mention of some slight character assassination of Peter because he just forgets some lessons he learned in a previous film, which I gotta admit, they actually made a good point about that and even had some proof. Though, at the same time, I kind of don't care because the film was just that entertaining. But I'm not gonna lie, anybody who uses a little bit of logic on how things could have gone differently knows that perhaps the way the events happened in that film, with Peter constantly fucking meddling with the spell, there could have been a smarter way for just Doctor Strange to go about it. Like, just wiping Mysterio's memory or the footage he originally had, or I don't know. I recommend seeing the how it should have ended animation to really understand how things could have gone differently if this was written in a way where Doctor Strange and Peter Parker were actually the intelligent beings that the MCU constantly depicts them as. Nonetheless, you can really consider that a minor nitpick since I did still enjoy the film. Our next one is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, but since I feel like I need to talk about WandaVision first, man, I really should have started off with the TV shows, shouldn't have I? Anyways, we're going to put a pin on that and come right back around to it after I talk about WandaVision. Next is Thor, Love, and Thunder. And I remember hearing about the original comic book this one was based off of, which got me very freaking excited. And one of these days, I gotta check out the comic book to make me feel better for checking out this fucking god-awful film. I mean, when I heard about the lore of, what's his name, Gore the God Butcher, I was ecstatic to see where it would go. Excuse me. And although we do see him in quite a few scenes, I feel like they barely built him up as a real threat. He's supposed to have this sword that could truly end the life of a god. And he apparently goes around slaughtering other gods, which I was really hoping to see. No, most of that just happens off screen. The fight between him and Thor, or fights, I should say, were... I don't remember the other fights. The only fight I remember was the one where he brought in the children and just gave them the power, and I was just dying of fucking cringe with that. I really hope that's not in the original comic books it's based off of, because that was beyond fucking cringe. Also, he could do that the entire fucking time? Why has he never done that before? Yeah, nonetheless, Gore the God Butcher as a character left a lot to be desired. That was not delivered on. And I definitely need to learn more about him from the comic books. That definitely sounds interesting. I probably should have just done that back in the day. I regret not doing that. I did kind of like the scene where he was hanging out with the Guardians of the Galaxy. I wish we would have gotten more of that than what we actually got. And that's about it. Let's just move on to our next film. Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Now, I really feel like I gotta do a separate video just on this film alone to really describe my feelings around it. Because it really feels like a rehash of the previous plot. Rehash and remix a little bit, but remixed poorly. As for the main antagonist, Namor, he had a pretty good origin story, some pretty fucking stupid motivations, and was a complete joke of a threat near the end of the film. Like, oh no, the Atlanteans are gonna fight with the surface world with an entire population of, I have no fucking clue. It looks like they have the equivalent of a small submarine city. against 9 billion people, the entire surface world. Mind you, he couldn't even make it past the beach before he started dying of dehydration. And a lot of people on the surface world live in deserts or very hot climates. I really don't understand how he thinks he's gonna go to war with the entire surface world when he could barely get past the fucking coastline. Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but if my memory serves me correct, near the end of the film with that final battle, wasn't that their entire fucking army? As in the entire Atlantean, or what was the original I can't remember the name of what they called Atlantis in this film. So forgive me, I'm going to continue to call it Atlantis from here on out. But they had their entire Atlantis military against the entire Wakandan military, both very small militaries, so much so that it's fucking laughable that any of them think they can take on the entire fucking world. I'm sorry, but like I understand Wakandans are very fucking, good with special ops and espionage. But if we're talking about full-blown all-out war, I'm sorry. If the rest of the world wanted to team up against Wakanda or Atlantis, they would both be fucked. They would be fucked. All the U.S. military would have to do is send a few corvettes or a submarine to drop some depth charges on Atlantis, and they're fucking dead. Or, I don't know, drop a fucking a submarine nuke. I mean, what do they have? Water grenades? Those are pretty fucking cool, don't get me wrong, but I'm sorry. Just they wouldn't even be able to compete against the U.S. military, let alone the entire fucking globe of 9 billion people on the surface world. Of an underwater city versus an underwater city of what doesn't even look like a few 100,000. Honestly, there's a lot I want to say about this film, but I think I will save it for a future video. But man, Namor, the actor did good with what he was given, but at the same time, what he was given really makes the character look fucking stupid and like a joke near the end. But he did have a decent backstory. Alright then guys, next up is the TV shows. And since I decided to save Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness for after I saved WandaVision, we're putting a pin on that. I'm also going to put a pin on WandaVision until I go through all the shows here. Then I'm going to go through WandaVision followed by Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Since one is supposed to follow up the other, I definitely want to talk about them side by side. So let's go ahead and start off with our first show. Really excited to see the madness we will get in the madness of multiverse. So you can only imagine my disappointment once again for another film that I got hyped for. For fuck's sake, I'll say this, the trailers did their fucking job, and they did their fucking job well. But I also hate them. Doctor Strange 2 in the Multiverse of Madness. When I watched this film initially, I thought I had missed an entire another film or a second season to WandaVision that was just like never promoted. Just in general, I felt like I was missing a whole lot of context for why Wanda was where she was at, where her head was at, why her motivations were what they were. Her going after America Chavez. Chavez, right? America Chavez? Anyways, like I said, it just felt like I was missing something. And perhaps this is one of those circumstances where they try to fill in the gaps with the tie-in comics. But from what I've heard from, what was it, Sam Raimi and Miss Owen, I do not remember her first name. Again, I suck with fucking names. I can't remember some names to save my fucking life. But from the actor of the Scarlet Witch and Sam Raimi, who made this film, I feel like if there is a tie-in comic to fill in this gap, they really did it because they know they screwed up, rushed this film, and really didn't give him enough time to really let it cook. Especially since they made him make it without even seeing WandaVision first, because it wasn't ready yet. By the time they were working on Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, apparently WandaVision was still in production. And again, this was confirmed by Sam Raimi and Miss Owen. And felt like that it was just such... Look up the interviews if you don't believe me, or any articles. She said that it just felt like just such a leap where they went with the Scarlet Witch, that it felt like a character assassination or something like that. At least that's something how the fans described it. I can't remember the exact words she used. But she felt like they didn't do her character right. And of course, they just go ahead and kill her off. Now, I will be honest, there are some aspects of this film that are enjoyable, but given that this is supposed to be a follow-up to WandaVision, and technically a Doctor Strange film, so a follow-up to that film as well, overall, I think it's just kind of dog water, story plot-wise, and what they did with Wanda. And I just don't really care too much about America Chavez. I don't hate her or dislike her, but I don't like her either. I'm just really just neutral on her. Don't really care. That zombie Doctor Strange near the end was actually pretty cool. I like that visual. The freaking soul cape. That was something special. Let's see. And they really made Wanda look like a threat in this film. I would have loved to see her be more of a threat as this film was better, and what more of a threat she could have been in the future if they didn't kill her off. Yes, I know, Infinite Universes, infinite possibilities. Technically speaking, the character is never truly dead. Cop-out excuse, though. Like, it's still a possibility, but I just wish they just didn't do what they did with Wanda in the first place. At the very least, don't kill her off. Who knows? Maybe that flash of red was not her dying, but her teleporting or some shit to another multiverse? I don't know. If they do explain any of this in the tie-in comics and you are familiar with what happens, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. I don't mind some minor spoilers. I do want to go into more details on this film, but again, I'm probably going to save this for a later video where I talk about them side by side. Oh, and by the way, we're never going to stop roasting the shit out of them for the way they represented the world's smartest man, ladies and gentlemen. Honestly though, like what they thinking? I did say earlier there was also an issue where Peter and Doctor Strange were dumbed down for No Way Home. Otherwise, the events of the film wouldn't have happened. And there's always the excuse of, if it doesn't happen, we don't have a film. But no, I really feel like we could get some smarter writers that could really work on like... Let's get the fucking Futurama writers to write some of this shit and see what happens. Let them write the smartest people alive. And then shit will get real interesting. Now, that's just about all of it. But before I get to my final conclusion, there is actually one last series I gotta include. Let's go over the first holiday special, which was a Halloween special called Werewolf by Night. Now, I think I did lightly mention this in my previous video, and my dumbass mistakenly called it Werewolf Among Us, which is a video game. By the way, this is something that I really forgot to mention in my previous video. Spoilers ahead, because I will talk about the details. If you haven't seen it, I don't know what to tell you. What did you expect diving into a video talking about the details of it? Nonetheless, spoilers ahead. Anyways, the general synopsis I can give of this film is the werewolf, which I can't remember the name of. I don't remember too much of the details of this film. I saw it once. And another chick, which I think is a witch, I believe. I can't remember too much of the film. I did like it, but I don't remember too much of the details. They partake in a hunt to become the new leader of some group and acquire a powerful stone known as the Bloodstone. I do understand this does come from the comics. I know practically nothing of it. What I do understand, thanks to this introduction in a Spider-Man animated show a while ago, this is supposed to be an introduction, or how can I put it? An entry turning point for the MCU to start doing classical horror within, well, the MCU. And by the classical horror genre, basically what I'm referencing to, especially since I mentioned that it comes from the comics and I was introduced to it thanks to a Spider-Man show, one episode of it, Marvel has their own MCU. They will have their own MCU themed version of these guys, but their own Marvel version of the original Universal monsters, such as Frankenstein's monster, the werewolf, the Invisible Man. Let me see. Of course, they got Dracula, but their version is probably more so an original spin on the original cinematic mythos of vampires rather than specifically the Universal version of them. Nonetheless, they technically have Dracula and a mummy, or the mummy. And apparently what they're supposed to be within the Marvel Universal universe is, thanks to my introduction to that one Spider-Man episode, which show? I don't remember which one. They're apparently supposed to be a special operation within S.H.I.E.L.D. that deals with monster-related situations, such as Dracula. Yes, you heard that correctly. Apparently the Invisible Man, the Mummy, Frankenstein's monster, and the werewolf got recruited by freaking S.H.I.E.L.D. I can understand Frankenstein's monster probably having a very long lifespan, but given how old their mythology is, even within the Marvel Universe, man, those fuckers are old. How is it that they seem to have immortality? Like, again, Frankenstein's monster makes sense. The Mummy makes sense. Dracula, of course. The werewolf? Do werewolves tend to have immortality? I guess maybe very long lifespans. How long would a werewolf's lifespan be? And then the Invisible Man, he's literally just a translucent dude. I don't think he would have a healing factor or immortality. I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to make too much sense of it, and I'm not sure how they're going to make that work within, MCU horror moving forward. Anyways, with Werewolf by Night, apparently it's actually meant to be a bit of an homage to the original Universal Werewolf, because, well, Werewolf by Night, the werewolf, he actually resembles the original werewolf from the Universal films a lot. Clearly meant to be a straight up resemblance. And they even have this film in black and white. Now, from my understanding, I think you can watch a colored version of it now, like fully colored all the way through, but the original version is meant to be seen in black and white, again, as an homage to the original Universal films. Now for their first and so far only Halloween special, this film was really good. Now, even though I don't really remember too much because it's been a while and I watched it once, it was really good, and I will be watching it this upcoming spooky month. If you want to get into the mood for this upcoming Halloween and you want something perhaps MCU themed, well, this will be the film for you. And I really do hope we get more of these in the near future. Whether it be with the werewolf again or the other monsters, I'm hoping we do get another one. Maybe if we're lucky, we'll get another one this Halloween. Granted, I doubt it. I don't remember hearing any announcements for that. Or perhaps maybe we'll get Blade, since at least we'll get Dracula. But I don't know. I don't know what the release date for that is. I don't know if we're going to be getting anything like that anytime soon. But it would be nice. Now, our next film and our next holiday special, which was also meant to be the conclusion to Phase 4, is the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. A Christmas special. And the MCU's first Christmas special. That is, if we're not including Iron Man 3 and Hawkeye again. Or at the very least, this one's meant to be a deliberate special, whereas that other film and show are really meant to just, I think, take place during Christmas. I don't know if they were really meant to be Christmas specials in of themselves, purposefully. But again, you could always treat them as such. Nonetheless, this is the official, purposeful MCU Christmas special. Now for this one, essentially it's the Christmas season. Star-Lord has not been in the best mood lately, let alone in the Christmas spirit. So Drax and Mantis, of all people, try to cheer him up and bring him a little gift from Earth by simply kidnapping one of his favorite actors, and shenanigans ensue. Now this film I absolutely loved. I pretty much enjoyed anything and everything Guardians of the Galaxy related when it came to the MCU. And I really enjoyed Dave Bautista as Drax and Palm. I'm sorry, I'm just not going to even attempt to pronounce that last name, as Mantis. The two of them were just really enjoyable and had great chemistry this entire film. And the chemistry and vibe between the two is almost kind of like, a sibling relationship, especially with how much Drax just constantly picks on Mantis for no fucking reason. Literally like an older brother. And with how much he just loves to say she is the ugliest creature he has ever seen. I absolutely disagree, but hey, it's his taste. Personally, I think she's one of the finest characters in all of the MCU. Prove me wrong. Well, definitely one of the finest, in the top 3 for sure. I would say she's my personal number 1, but of course, Black Widow. I know for many people she's number 1, or at the very least, she's my number 2. But there's just something about Mantis. It just hits me right. Really love her personality. Also, I mean, come on. Her powers have to do with emotions. She can read yours, heals yours, give you... make you feel a certain emotion, enhance your emotions. So let's say if you're trying to hit it off with Mantis and you were feeling a little certain way, you wouldn't even really have to try. You would just have to get her to really feel your feelings. I shit you fucking not. And she'd be able to enhance the feeling even more with her powers. In fact, she's literally... Given her powers, she is literally the only person, at least within the MCU, that would probably be able to make somebody get off by the mere touch of her. When you really think about it, given how her fucking powers work. Where am I going with this? You had it here officially, folks. Mantis is the only MCU character that'll make somebody bust just by her mere touch. Not even not even Natasha Romanoff can accomplish that. Anyways, all shits and giggles aside, I did really enjoy this film. I enjoyed these two. It was nice, it was heartwarming, it was a pretty decent Christmas film. And, man, I would say this is one of those films that really can reach a broad audience. It's of a decent age rating to where you can watch it with the family. It's entertaining for all ages, like actually entertaining for all ages, if you can get into the humor and really get into these characters. And just by it being a holiday special, a good holiday special, it has pretty much guaranteed its rewatchability for years to come. Oh, and before I conclude, let me just say I really freaking enjoyed that bit with Drax just going crazy for that stuffed, or I think it was a stuffed elf. I don't know if it was stuffed or like a blow up elf. Dude, watching him get excited near the end of the film, so freaking excited like a little kid over that thing near the end, was fucking hilarious. Seriously, I really got to give credit to Dave Bautista in this film. He put his all into this Drax character. Now to summarize my final concluding thoughts of this phase once again, especially for those of you who didn't see the previous video. One thing I gotta reiterate from the previous video is that, again, this phase had a lot, personally, I think way too much shoved into it within the span of, I believe, like a year and a half or two, right? So much so that I would say at least half of the properties within this phase didn't even have enough time to cook in the oven. It really came out half-baked. Like, if you really pay attention to a good portion of these properties, even some of the good ones, they felt a little bit rushed. Even with WandaVision, which I really liked, some parts of it felt a little rushed, at least near the end.